Hey everyone, welcome back to 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Today's conversation is one that hits deep. It's raw, it's real, and it's necessary. Libby was married to Corey Anderson, a veteran of the 101st Airborne who served in Iraq. After coming home, Corey faced the kind of battles most people never see: PTSD, 2 traumatic brain injuries, and a fight for support through a system that didn't show up in time. Libby walks us through their journey, from being engaged during his deployment to raising 4 kids, navigating vet court, and eventually facing the unimaginable. Corey died by suicide in October 2024. Now, Libby is using her pain for purpose, going back to school, raising awareness, and advocating for other families living through the aftermath of trauma. This is a story about love, loss, and the courage to speak truth even when it hurts. Take a breath and let's dive in.
You're listening to 8158 Stories of Sacrifice, where we honor the bravery of the first responders and the families who stand behind them. Real people, real stories, real heroes. This is 8158. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of 8158 Podcast Stories of Sacrifice. Today's guest is we have Libby, and she is a military wife. She has a very profound story dealing with some issues as being a military wife, and a very sad story as well. So without giving anything away, we're going to let Libby tell her story as we go along and answer these questions. And we're going to welcome her to our podcast. So welcome, Libby. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. Doing all right.
You're very welcome, and it's an honor to have you on here. We know that your story is pretty sad and heartbreaking. We're going to get on with this, and, you're going to be okay, and you're going to be able to move forward, hopefully.
Eventually, one day. Yeah.
A day at a time. One day at a time.
Exactly. Sometimes an hour at a time.
Yeah. I am wearing the green shirts that we have just to honor your husband.
I like it. Thanks.
So with the military and the family life, talk to us about Corey and how Corey's first enlistment. So what was that like for you?
Well, when he was still in, it was just me and him. But I feel like just the two of us, it wasn't hard, but he also hadn't been on a deployment yet, mm-hmm. Right? So he didn't have all the extra baggage, I guess, that comes with a deployment. Mm-hmm. I do think, I know that he did enjoy the time that he spent with his buddies and the camaraderie and all the different things that he was able to experience. But there was also always the stress that overhung on when he would have to go somewhere and how quick it would have to be and what it would look like. That was always hanging over our heads, okay. And the way that can change your life. And you really don't necessarily have time to plan. It's just like, this is what we're doing. And because he was in when 9/11 took place, and then the initial war happened, they knew something was going to come of it, right? They knew they were going to go to war. It was just a matter of when. And so that was stressful.
Okay. So what was it like being engaged to someone in the military while he was deployed? before the kids and before you guys were married?
It's kind of awful. Like I said, it had all just started. So he was with the 101st, and he was part of the initial invasion.
Mhm.
So when he went, nothing was set up yet. They didn't even have places to stay necessarily. Like, they would take over fire stations, or they took over one of Saddam's palaces, and that's where they would stay. So they didn't have email. They didn't have phones. We wrote letters, but that took like a month to get to him. So occasionally he would find someone with a phone that they were working with, and he would pay them, and he would call. Sometimes that was really scary. He never could talk long. I do remember one occasion where we were talking, and all of a sudden he said he had to go real quick, and the phone just dropped. And I had no clue what was going on. I could hear the panic in his voice and the commotion going around on in the back. So that was extremely nerve-wracking to not know what was happening. And so when he called me back, eventually, there was a mortar that had hit. And so that was just really eye-opening to me. I mean, I knew it was scary that he was going, but then to realize that it can change so quickly and things can go wrong so fast.
So from your standpoint, it was totally nerve-wracking, not knowing, and then barely having any contact with him or direct contact with him.
Yeah.
I imagine that was pretty emotionally draining on you.
It was extremely draining. And I got to give it to the women and men who do it with families and are staying back waiting, that just adds a whole nother level, that you have to take care of. Because it was so emotional.
I imagine. I can imagine, not knowing and then hearing all the commotion and not knowing what was going on at the time.
Yeah. And then, everything was on the news at that time. So
Right.
I'm trying to keep up with every little thing. And then I don't always know where he is because it takes so long for the letters. And so I'm like, oh, could he have been in that attack, or could he have been in this location, or, so just trying to always play that guessing game of where he was he safe, what's going on. He had a brother over there at the exact same time. So, between the two of them, it was like, where are you? Are you safe? I mean, obviously not, right? But some places are safer than others. But it was a lot.
Yeah. I totally understand. My cousin was in Iraq. He did 3 tours over there. He was a part of Iraqi freedom. And
Yeah.
I can imagine how nerve-wracking that was for you.
Yeah, it was hard. And hey, 3 tours. Whew, that's a lot.
He was a staff sergeant, so
that makes a little more sense. Yeah.
yeah. So how did Corey's experience overseas begin to impact life at home once he had returned?
I remember when he returned home and trying to, just within the first couple weeks, I remember going to the mall to get his cell phone. And I remember it was like some Middle Eastern guy working at the counter, and Corey wasn't getting help immediately. And he acted like he was going to jump over the counter, like that this guy was like threatening to him, And it was like, oh. And then later that night, we're in the movie theater and there's a thunderstorm starting, and he hears the thunder, and it's almost like he takes cover. So initially when he got back, I remember being like, what is going on? I don't think I expected it. I didn't grow up in this kind of lifestyle. He did. And so I just was blindsided a little bit by it. But then it kind of tapered off. And he would have little episodes where his family and I were like, yeah, there's definitely some PTSD there. Like, you're definitely dealing with the backlash of all that. But it wasn't until we'd been married about 10 years that it was like a switch was flipped. And he just couldn't contain it anymore. He couldn't fight it and keep it at bay. And he just kind of exploded. And things got really bad. And at that point, we had just had our fourth. And it was bad, like walking on eggshells, never knowing what would set him off. Sometimes something could happen and it wouldn't. And then the next day it was setting him off, you know. It was hard for him to keep a job. He had 2 traumatic brain injuries. And so it was hard for him to process everything. And we didn't even know about those right away.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a lot that went on. And I was clueless on how to deal with it, what was normal, you know. So it was a challenge for sure.
So can you tell us how he ended up with the TBIs?
So one was actually before he went to Iraq, and they were training, and he was a gunner. His job was a gunner on the top of the Humvee, and they hit a ditch, and his head hit the 50 cal. Ooh. And totally knocked him out, knocked his teeth out, you know, took him right into the Humvee. So that was the first one. And then the second one, I think, was just an explosion or something like that was right next to them in Iraq. So, yeah, things that I think that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of that happens outside of the military veteran community, right? Like, if I mention people that he had TBIs, they're like, what's that? And so I think that's a main component of a lot of these men and women that is another part of that invisible wound, right? That they're dealing with this injury to the brain that really affects the way they're functioning.
Okay. So now that he's dealing with PTSD, being back home and having a TBI, when did you first notice signs of PTSD or other changes in Corey's behavior or mental health, other than the last couple situations that you had described?
I feel like he was losing jobs from the beginning pretty quick. So I don't know if I even realized until we were way in to the bad of it all, mm-hmm. that everything that was happening before was from PTSD. I think I was very naive to what was going on. So I don't feel like it was until, you know, like the first decade of our marriage when I really started being like, whoa, like we're in deep.
Right.
But like I said, now that I look back, I'm like, oh, that was a sign. I wish I had realized. Oh, that, you know, I just didn't educate myself enough. I didn't know I needed to educate myself. And so I think this is another reason why I do what I'm doing, is because there's so much unknown that people don't know about that hopefully can help people who are struggling like this.
Right. Yeah, I know back then, I guess, you know, PTSD really wasn't a thing. I know in previous wars, they were calling it like shell shock and other things.
Yes.
They didn't really understand what was going on. I had an uncle. He wasn't like really my uncle, but he was an uncle by friend because he
Yeah.
was a good friend of my stepdad, and he was in Vietnam. He came back and he saw us watching a movie when he came in the house, and he kicked in our TV because it was a movie based on Vietnam. That was our first experience having to deal with that. But I
Yeah.
had a lot of family members that were in the military, from my grandfathers on both sides of my family down to my brothers and my previous wife, her son, my
Wow.
stepson. He was in the
Yeah.
Marines. So yeah, a lot of my family on my side, on my mom's side, was in the Army and the Navy, and then my dad's side, they were all Marines.
So you've seen a lot of it and experienced a lot of the different behaviors
Right.
that can happen. Yeah. And there's so many different, it can look so many different ways, right? Like sometimes Corey was so depressed and just slept all the time. And then
Yeah.
sometimes it was the anger where you're like, okay, well, you just punched a hole in our door unnecessarily. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just didn't know what side was coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard dealing with people that have mental health issues and you don't understand what's going on. You don't have an idea. You don't have a clue.
Yeah,
And there's no way to know how to deal with that if you don't know what's going on.
exactly. Yeah. It took a while for me to really be like, oh, something's going on here. And like his family would ask me certain questions like, well, have you checked this or have you done this? And then I'm like, oh, like there's a problem, you know?
Yeah.
So it takes all of us to help
Yeah.
figure things out.
Yeah. It takes a lot of knowledge and understanding. Um,
It
And
does.
unfortunately, it took a lot of time to figure out the PTSD thing. And uh, everybody's coming to know that PTSD is not. I mean, a lot of our guests don't call it a disorder; they call it an injury or
Mhm.
just post-traumatic
PTS,
stress.
which I like that
Yeah,
because it's not a disorder. Like,
right,
I don't think that's fair.
right. It was a traumatic injury to your brain because
Yeah.
of traumas that you suffered.
That you suffered for the freedoms of your country nonetheless, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's just, yeah. Yeah. Corey didn't call it PTSD either. He called it PTS.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Post-traumatic stress.
yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I agree with the injury part. I agree with the PTS because it is not a disorder. It's not something that you were born with. It is something that has happened to you.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just like, when you break your arm, it's an injury.
Yeah.
You can hurt your brain too.
Yeah. People just can't see it. Yeah.
Right.
There was someone that gave me a really good example one time of this. And it was just in the last couple of years it was a therapist and we were just talking about Corey and just, my best way moving forward to help him and deal with him. And we were talking about, traumatic brain injuries. And I'm a runner. And so he's like, if you had a broken leg and a big cast, and someone said, well, you still have to run this half marathon, like it would not physically be possible. And
Right.
so that's kind of what we're asking these men and women to do. He has an injury to his brain, and I'm saying go forward and continue to function. It's not possible without the correct help. So I think that's a great way to look at what goes on. We are just not seeing the injury to them.
Exactly. It's an unseen injury, and it's sad that it needs to be recognized a lot better than what they're trying to do.
I agree.
Um, so now that Corey had been suffering with 2 TBIs, how did that affect his mental health day to day in his life?
This is another thing that I don't think I understood enough.
Mhm.
I think I've learned a lot since he has passed. And also it's hard to determine what is the PTSD and what is the injury, right? Because there are so many similarities. But he could not remember anything. There was a lot that the kids or I would say, and he couldn't remember, or he repeated himself all the time. Another huge thing that I did start realizing at the end, he didn't work for a really long time. And then towards the end, when he thought he was getting better, he wanted to try going back to work.
Mhm.
And when he got out, he really wanted to be in the police department, and that wasn't going like he wanted, but he still wanted to help others. And so he became a registered nurse, and he was really good at it. And so he was still losing the jobs though. But with each job, he still had more experience. And so he was given more responsibility. But that was also some of the reason why he was losing the job, because he had more responsibility, but his brain couldn't handle it. Does that make sense?
That was too much for him to process. Yeah.
Yes, he couldn't process it all. He wasn't fast enough. He couldn't do it at the pace that was needed.
Yeah.
And so that was towards the end, that was a huge sign to me. And I remember being like, okay, this isn't going to work. And I felt very confident about saying, you need to just go back to staying at home. And that was about 2 weeks before. And I think that was one of the things, is that he just couldn't come to terms with feeling like he was doing nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how, like I said, I'm still learning a lot, but those are just a few examples of how it affected him.
Oh, sad. I wish he had more help. And
I know. Well, and some of the thing is, I feel like there's a lot of help out there. It's hard to find it, and the funding on a lot of it is, there's just not funding. But I think it's that stigma behind it. I wish I had more help, but I wish these veterans realize that it's okay to ask for help too,
yes.
right? Because I think there's that huge stigma, and I think
Yeah.
Corey would get stuck in that. Like, here I was this big, bad, strong person that went to fight the bad guys, right? And now I need help. Now I can't handle what I went through. Like, it made him not feel, enough, or, you know? So I think that's part of it too, is letting these men and women who are suffering realize it's okay.
Right. To ask for help. It's
Yeah.
okay to not to be okay, but to ask for
Yeah.
help as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that he couldn't get the help that he actually needed. Um,
It is.
you know, we hear that a lot with first responders, some of the police officers that we talk with, and they're afraid. Sometimes they're afraid of speaking out because they don't want to lose their jobs.
That was my
Or
exact thought. Yes. Yes.
so, uh, and a lot of the times, it's hard to ask for help when you're supposed to be this strong person. And I went through that too. I had a lot of childhood traumas, and I was supposed to be the strong one of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of that bravado of being the strong one when I had my own mental health issues with
Yeah.
compounding traumas and stuff. So it was hard.
It is hard. And no one should have to feel like they have to do it alone.
Right. Exactly. Nobody should have to do it alone. And,
No,
they should feel safe for asking for help.
I agree.
Uh, so can you share what navigating the VA system was like for your family?
The VA is awful. So awful. From day one, I remember we had been married, and there was, because after he did his active duty, then he was inactive reserved. And so I guess things were getting bad again or something. I can't remember. One of his friends actually got called up that he served with on the inactive reserve. And so he was terrified. And so we went to this was our very first experience with the VA. We went to the VA seeking help because he thought if he made it look like he was, experiencing things, that maybe this would help him not ever have to go back. And this just dawned on me as we're talking about this, but this is probably one of the reasons why he was so afraid to seek help. So we get there, and, you have to show your DD-214. So they take it from him, and he goes back to talk to the doctor, and they don't feel he's safe. And they lock him in a padded cell with a crib mattress. I mean, that's what it looked like, a crib mattress. And they threw what he called pajamas on him. Threw at him to put on these pajamas, they were gonna keep him. And he lost his crap. And eventually they did call me back to help calm him. So we're sitting, the two of us, in this padded cell on a crib mattress. He's refusing to put the pajamas on. Finally, the doctor comes in, and he just releases us to go. And I'm like, what was the point of all this? All that for what?
Right.
And then so we try to go to get his DD-214, and they say they don't have it anywhere. And then they're like, oh, we think it went into the shredder.
Oh, Jesus.
It was scary. And he's like, I'm not leaving till you figure this out for me. And of course they had it, and they gave it to us. So that was our first experience. And then it's awful. For one, no one wants to work for the VA. So about every 9 or 10 months, they're like, oh, you get a new doctor. They over-medicated him, severely over-medicated him. He got to the point where he could manipulate them to give him what he felt he wanted, right? They learn all the games. Right. And it was a new doctor every time. So they didn't know that they had been dealing with this cycle for how many years, right?
Right.
So the new doctor would give in. And if they said that they were going to change his medicine, he would get outraged. And I think he felt like medicine was the only way to cure or help,
Yeah.
He had so many surgeries. He broke his back in the military, rappelling out of a helicopter. And they never took care of it properly before he went to Iraq. And then he went to Iraq, and all, everything he carried. So that was awful. And just within the last 5 years, he had gotten, I can't even remember. It's like a stimulator that goes in the back. It's an internal device. Mm-hmm. And they messed it up. And he had probably 5 surgeries within 2 months. So it's not even just dealing with them on a mental capacity. It's the physical stuff that they couldn't deal with, And then the financial aspect was a totally other thing. When Corey passed, the day that he died, they stopped all payment to me.
Really?
Yeah, all of it. And so I had to fight to get my benefits back that the kids and I were deserved. So, I mean, how do you do that to someone? Right. Especially because they kept us all our health insurance. So if we're good enough to keep the health insurance, clearly we have a situation here, but I'm already dealing with my husband who went to war and sacrificed his life and came back with so many injuries that he took his life. And now you're going to take all my money? So it's very infuriating to work with them on so many different levels.
Right. So now you're basically his caregiver. Did you receive any support during that period?
No.
While he was struggling with PTSD?
No, and that's another thing. Like, I don't think they care about the family. You know, there is a caregiver program.
Mm-hmm.
And I did apply. I think I applied 2 or 3 times, got denied every time. And we did have some friends that got the benefits as a caregiver. And there was a point where the VA dropped, like, I don't even know, like a huge percentage of caregivers. And just there was 3 tiers you could be on. And they were either dropping your tier dramatically or they were just dropping the caregivers altogether. And that was the time I was trying to get caregiver. And then it was so stressful dealing with the stress of him, trying to figure out how to get paid to be a caregiver because I couldn't work. You know, it was a mess. So there's just not a lot that I found anyway. And I didn't really care for the VA to find help through them also, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How could you trust them?
Yeah, I didn't. I still don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There definitely needs to be some revamping on that.
Right? There does. And yeah.
So moving on from that, Corey had some legal challenges and had to do some vet court. When he went through Veterans Court for 2.5 years, what was that experience like for you and your family?
It was hard in the beginning. It was really hard. It took Corey at least a good 6 to 7 months to buy into the program and realize that it was benefiting him. Mm-hmm. And that it could possibly change things around for him. So it was stressful, but it was good. I tried to be very involved. I don't know if they always liked it or trusted what I was saying because Corey saw things differently. And I think that's another thing with PTSD and traumatic brain injuries is your view of things is distorted. And I do remember Corey telling me right before he passed away, he's like, I don't even know what's real and what's not. So I think during the program, the things that he would tell weren't always accurate. And so I would try to get involved and sometimes butt heads with people. But overall, I know it was good, you know? And he had a lot of people fighting for him, and everyone worked together. So the counselor worked with the program, who worked with the VA and the medicines, and it was a whole package, right? Everyone was involved. And I think that's one of the really important things about all this is that if everyone is not connected in the same plan for Corey, it doesn't work. Because if you're going to therapy and then the doctor is just over medicating you or giving you medicines that aren't good, which they would, and then I would see the side effects at home, like this isn't working, but no one wants to believe me, it doesn't work well. I don't think you can effectively heal, right? And so the program was great in that way. everyone was working together for the good of Corey.
Okay. So could you explain what this program was?
Yeah. So it goes by county. So not every county has it. Cobb County is where we are. And they had this vet court. It was fairly new. And so if you got into legal trouble and, were in the system, Corey had a situation, first time he ever got in legal trouble, and he found himself in jail. And so they go to the jails and seek out veterans who were successful in the military because they want to pull successful people so their program looks successful, right?
Yeah.
So they offered Corey, he could either serve like the jail time and whatever, or he could go through this program and his record would be wiped clean and sealed and no one would ever know what happened. And so he accepted the deal, and you had like court every Friday. You had to go to you had to go to AA meetings, which that wasn't Corey's thing, but you still had to go. You had to attend, all the group meetings they wanted. You had to do drug tests spur of the moment whenever they said you had to. You weren't allowed to have weapons in your house. You had a curfew. The sheriff could stop by whenever they wanted to at night to make sure you were, abiding by curfew, all these things. And then there was like stages. I can't remember, like stage 1, stage 2, and so you would graduate up until you got to like stage 5 or whatever it was. And then you would graduate and you'd be done. So he finally bought in and did good. But when he was done, that was done. That was it. We went back to normal. The VA was doing their own thing with medicine. I had no one to be like, hey, what do you think? There was no repercussions if he did anything he shouldn't. Like in the court program, if you did something that you weren't supposed to, or if you failed a drug test or, whatever, you served time. So like maybe 24 hours in jail or a week or whatever they thought the punishment was, which was awful because that was the last place someone like these guys should be, right? Like that's such a threat to them. And just heightened all the things. So I didn't enjoy that about it, but the program in itself really helped Corey. And I thought we had made it to the other side. And then he
So you would
started
say, yeah.
no, go ahead. That was it.
Okay. I was just going to say, so it basically temporarily helped him during that short period.
Yeah.
In his mental health and his healing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a Band-Aid in a way.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know about I don't know if a Band-Aid is the perfect way to say it, because I feel like taking a bunch of pills and not doing therapy or the work is a Band-Aid. I think what it did was it gave him all the skills, but I don't think he realized that this is a lifelong thing, right?
Yeah.
He still needed that community to follow up on him and keep him in check. And it was hard for me to do alone.
Right.
And so I think that's where the problem is that and I don't even know what the answer would be to something like that, but it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't go away. I mean, I have talked to some people that have done different psychedelic treatments and stuff like that say that they don't really struggle with it anymore. I don't know, but I feel like it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, dealing with the post-traumatic stress and dealing with traumatic brain injuries definitely does not go away overnight.
Mm-mm.
Uh, it's a lifetime process that you have to deal with and manage and control. Um, even dealing with panic attacks, it's something that has to be dealt with for the rest of your life. And
It
I
does.
take medications myself, and it helps to level me out. But yet, I
Mhm.
still have to manage it by going through therapies and stuff. And
Yes,
it is a
right?
life process, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, now we're going to kind of get on some more of a touchier subjects, um, dealing with the loss and the aftermath of your husband. Um, if you're comfortable sharing, can you walk us through the day or the weeks leading up to Corey's passing?
Yeah. I feel like I don't remember the weeks before.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes I try to think back and I'm like, what was I missing? What did I not see? My oldest son was home from college. He was a freshman and he'd only been out for like 2.5 months and he had a break and he came home. So we tried to do fun things and Corey wasn't working, but I'm like, what did I miss? You know? But I can't remember. I can't recall any of it. And I'm sure that's some of what the brain does with trauma, right?
Hmm.
But the day of, so it kind of started on Sunday night. I had just taken our oldest back to the airport to go back, and he wasn't doing well. But it was nothing new, right? Like we'd gotten back into this cycle of, okay, you're in a bad mood again. Everyone leave him alone.
Right.
But he didn't come out of it. So Monday, he's getting up, and the kids have the day off of school. So we're all there. It's me and the three younger ones, and it's like 11. I hear him getting up, and he's not happy. Lots of times he can sleep it off, or at least sleep it off enough that he can be level-headed enough to let me calm him down.
Yeah.
Um, because I did figure out the ways that would help calm him. But I also had to be in the right mood, right? Because when you're living with that for so long, you eventually start to feel a little crazy yourself.
Right.
um, and so I could see it in his eyes. I was like, you are not there. And there was nothing I could really say. And I knew it. And I told the kids, I was like, you guys need to leave, and you need to leave now. And then him and I worked our way to the front door. And the two little ones run out past me. And then my oldest runs around, probably because he was nervous, because he could see, or not my oldest, the oldest that was home at the time. He could
Hmm.
see that Corey was really getting worked up. And I remember being like, we're done with this. Like, you need to go into a full-time live-in program and deal with you. Don't worry about the kids and I, just deal with you.
Right.
He went inside. And at this time, we didn't have guns in the house. Like, we hadn't had guns for a while. Since he was in the program, they never came back because I went through too many things I did not feel comfortable with guns in my house.
Right.
So a friend kept them, but I didn't know that the night before he went and got one. So I had no clue. So we're at the door. And I'm like, this is what needs to happen. Like, I remember even doing this. Like, there's very few things that I really stand out. And he turns around and walks inside. And we've got this long front porch
Hmm.
that our bedroom windows are at the end. So I walk and I just stop there. And I remember just leaning over the rail being like, what is going on? Like, and then I heard the gun.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew automatically. And so luckily my neighbor is outside, and I bolt across off the porch and across the street, and I'm screaming for his name, my neighbor. And I remember like hyperventilating. And all I could get out was, I didn't know he had a gun. But in my mind, that meant I didn't know he had a gun. He just shot himself. I
Right.
heard. And so my neighbor was afraid that meant maybe he was going to come out the front door after us. So my first thing was to call someone to find where my kids were, because they could not come back to this.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to make sure they were safe. And then I called. So then he was like, do I call 911? And I was like, I can't talk. Like, yes. So he called 911, but the only information he knew was he had a gun. So then I call someone from my church. We have a very awesome, close-knit church family that has the only way I've made it through any of this. And so a leader from the church came over and sent like a couple. There was 3 people that came over. And in the meantime, while my neighbor is talking to the police, he takes me behind this like trailer that he pulls on his truck, and I just like collapse because he's afraid that Corey's going to come out and that he needs to get us safe.
Mm-hmm.
We will return after this quick ad break.
The William H. Bill Butler Jr. Foundation is on a mission to honor first responders and support those who serve. We provide scholarships for families who have lost a hero in the line of duty, offer second chances to juvenile offenders who are working to rebuild their future, and help new recruits pursuing careers as first responders. Through generous donations and the sale of merchandise, we're building a community that uplifts, empowers, and creates lasting impact. You can be a part of this mission as well. Visit 8158podcast.com to donate or shop today. Together, we can support those who serve, honor those we've lost, and give hope to those who need it most. Behind every badge is a story, and behind every story is a sacrifice. This is the 8158 podcast, where we honor the lives and legacies of first responders and their families. If our mission speaks to your heart, if these stories move you like they move us, join us on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you'll get ad-free listening, exclusive merchandise, behind-the-scenes content, and video episodes only available to our patrons. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you can be a part of it. Support us at patreon.com/8158podcast. Let's continue to share the stories that deserve to be heard.
Eventually, everyone shows up, and I'm behind this trailer. I stay there the whole time, just staring straight forward. I'm terrified to see what my house looks like. I have a really good girlfriend there with me, sat with me the whole time. And a lot of this I find out after the fact, because I have been able to have the opportunity to meet with the police officer that took on the case. There were 12 cop cars there with armed police officers between each car. They came up to me with an AK just dangling off their belt, or however they attach it to themselves. So here I am. That's all I remember seeing when someone came to talk to me. Here I am just hearing a gunshot, thinking my husband's laying dead in I thought he was like at the front door. It happened so fast. And I see this AK. So then they go surround. So I gave them a little bit of information, and then they like surrounded my house, looked in windows, whatever, I don't know. And then they came back to me and they're like, we need you to draw a layout of your house. I'm like, I don't even, can't barely talk to you. Like, you know,
Really?
so yeah. So my neighbor drew out, and then so then they went on with a megaphone and announced his name really loud, trying to get him to come out. When he didn't answer to that, I was like, he's gone. Like, because I thought maybe he just was trying to scare me and like shot the ceiling or something. So he didn't answer. So then they took a drone into the house and confirmed it. But then they took 8 armed guards with shields into my house just to make sure that he really was deceased. And so the first time I made a phone call was 11:30. And by the time the coroner got to him, the death certificate says 2:00. So it took them a long time to really get to him. And then I had to stay till I think 4, because I had to, you know, talk with the detective and all these different things. So I felt like there was a murder scene at my house, and then I was the hostage. And then there was like a hostage scene going on across, and that was me. And so it was awful. And in the meantime, I have to FaceTime my 2 oldest kids because my nieces and nephews start texting me and are so apologetic that this has happened and they can't believe it. And I'm like, someone's going to text my kids before they even hear it from me. So that was another traumatic thing. I'm having to FaceTime them and tell, like, I couldn't even get those words out. So there was just a lot that transpired over 4.5 hours.
Yeah. I know you'd mentioned that at some point that they were kind of grilling you on, you know, asking you a bunch of questions and making you feel like a suspect. What was that like for you?
That didn't feel good. I remember them coming back. Well, first they confirmed it to me. And from the beginning, I was like, I do not want them to tell me. Like, I don't want to hear it from them. I wanted my friend. I told her, I said, I want to look at you and know just by looking at you, because I knew I would, if it's real, if he really passed. And they wouldn't let her tell me. They had to get like in my face. And so I just closed my eyes and then I looked at her, and then they said, well, you know, then they wanted to talk to me about it. And they're like, it doesn't look like this is foul play. And I was like, for 2 seconds, like I was terrified. Like, are you kidding me? Do you think I had something to do with this? So yeah, I think, you know, and then they took like his phone and stuff like that to search through it and make sure that they're, you know, I wasn't allowed to have his phone for almost a month. And I'm like, it's just crazy. You know, especially when they saw what they saw and the mess that he left, like it wasn't me, you know?
Right. I mean, how could it be, you know, I mean, obviously dealing with self-inflicted gunshot wounds, it's pretty evident.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was pretty bizarre to me.
Yeah, that's not something you want to say to a grieving spouse that's just dealt with a very traumatic situation.
Not at all. But here's another problem here. And I don't know what the solution here is either. They are so desensitized. There was no feeling sad or sorry for me. I mean, I'm sure they did, right? But like they deal with these things all the time, which is why this is also for them. Like they need to feel okay seeking help because they're struggling with their own demons from what they're seeing. I cannot even imagine what the police officer saw. Like he's tried to explain some of it because I just wouldn't stop asking questions. The mental picture is bad enough, right? And to see it in real life, I guess that's how you deal with it. But they were so desensitized to the whole situation.
Right.
In dealing
I know
with me.
sometimes they use dark humor to deal with that and cope with that, and they don't get a lot of training on the mental health aspect side of it. But you know, they should be a little bit more sensitive. And I know there's some officers that are very sensitive to that and know how to kind of cope and deal with that situation.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that I mean, you had to deal with that in that manner. They could have at least spoke to your friend and had that compassion,
Right.
and to let her kind of deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's just a bad situation all the way around.
It was awful. Worst thing I've ever experienced, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I would agree with that. So now losing Corey in this manner, how has your PTS shown up since losing him?
Mine?
Yeah,
Is that what you?
yeah. I know you've got to have some post
It's
traumatic stress with
it's
that situation.
real. It is real. Sometimes I knew Corey had it, but sometimes I'd be like, what? You can't do this little thing. Like, come on, get it together.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I get it. 100% get it. And now I have to do everything. And so those small things that I asked him to do that I now have to do, I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And the sleepless nights, the week of the 4th of July was awful. And I couldn't sleep at all. Like I was exhausted, but I physically could not get myself to sleep at all. I had a few sleeping pills left from the very beginning that I was on. And we had a slumber party at a friend's house so that she could take care of my kids and I could take a sleeping pill because I had to make myself go to sleep.
Right.
The intrusive thoughts, those are real.
Yeah.
Those are real. Just all the fears and there's just so much, and so in the beginning, it was really, really hard. I felt a lot of guilt that I didn't know more. And because had I known more, I feel like maybe I would have been able to deal with it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of educating people, right? But I've worked through that for the most part. But it's unfortunate that sometimes we don't understand it until we've gone through it ourselves.
Right.
But I'm definitely experiencing things that he would talk about.
Yeah, it's hard to see something that you can't understand, but now that you're going through it, you definitely can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that it's real,
Yeah.
and it really affects people, and a lot of people that haven't gone through situations won't understand
No.
until they've gone through it themselves.
Which is, I mean, I don't want anyone to understand it this way. I don't want
No.
anyone to understand it as deeply as I do now.
Right.
But it does make it hard to help others, but
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you've coped with that, and dealing with that PTS, and in your daily life?
I couldn't do it without my kids. I can tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're what keep me going. And that's where I find true joy right now. Therapy, which is not easy.
Yeah.
But working through those things and processing and getting my brain to see it differently is helpful. And I have amazing friends that I could not do any of this. Even to this day, I couldn't do it without the support that I have. And the people I know I can call on my worst days and will help me and my kids no matter what.
Right. I think it's pretty awesome that you have a support system. You know, anybody going through this traumatic situation should have a support system.
I agree. And I know I do feel pretty lucky, though. I feel like not everyone has that same support to draw on.
Right. Yeah, some of our first responders and military veterans are suffering in silence for far too long, doing
Yeah.
that on their own, which is unhealthy.
Yeah.
It can lead to obviously a situation like this with the lack of understanding and knowing what to do.
Yeah. They need to not feel alone.
You know, that's one of the things about this podcast that we're trying to shed light on is, you know, just making our first responders and veterans to make them feel like they're not alone.
Yeah.
And there is help. There are people out there. There are people that do care. I mean, I have a hotline myself that I'll answer and just be a listening ear. I don't have to
Yeah.
give any advice. I'm not a therapist or anything like that. I'll just be there to listen to you.
And I think you guys are doing great things. And I think that's one of the important things also is not feeling that you need to fix it or give advice, right? I think there's a time for advice and there's a time to just listen. And when someone's in the deepest depths of all this, they need a listening ear. Because that's how I felt. Like, can you just listen to me and not try to fix it and just let me cry and be in this place for a second? Because I do believe that the only way to get through this is to face it head on.
Right.
You can't go around it. You can't ignore it, or it's going to blow up like it did for Corey. And his life just, never got back under control.
That's unfortunate. So what were some of the ways that people helped you? What did they do? What did they say to help that pain that you were dealing with after his death?
Sat with me, let me cry on them, took care of my kids. No one tried to fix it. You can't fix something like this. I had to move. They packed up my house completely, 100% packed up my house because I didn't want to go in. Helped me find a new place, unpacked me, completely unpacked me. And were there every step of the way with me. Brought me dinners, drove me places, planned the whole funeral.
Oh, wow.
Like, I could not do anything. And I there are so many emotions that come on with this, like anger, sadness, guilt, like all the things that I couldn't face planning it because that made it real to me, even though obviously it was real. But then it was like facing it, that how am I really planning my husband's funeral?
Right.
So occasionally they would get input, but I left it up to them or family.
Right.
frequent check-ins. Like people were checking up on me all the time. If I didn't answer, they'd be at my door,
Right.
you know?
Kind of reminds me of Sarah's story, my cousin's wife, after he was killed in the line of duty. Um, she had a hard time dealing with it herself, obviously. And she, there was a time where time had lapsed and she was blanked out. Um, she didn't know she had 3 children with my cousin, and she knew they were taken care of. Somebody was taking care of them.
Hmm.
She didn't know
Hmm.
who, but she
Hmm.
constantly had friends and family rallying around her, giving her space, and just being there for her, taking care of the kids, making sure they were going to school, making sure they were fed, and
Yeah.
bathed and everything like that. Fortunately, as far as the funeral, they had a thing called the SMART team with the sheriff's department that came in and handled all of the funeral stuff.
Oh, that's great.
So, um,
Yeah, that's how it was for me. So the first 2 weeks we stayed at a friend's house, the friend that I called to find my kids. And I didn't even realize that I wasn't taking care of my kids, until some point after the fact. One of my sons was like, yeah, these 3 people are pretty much who took care of us during that time. And I was like, huh,
yeah,
makes sense. But you just like I was in this fog and people were
yes,
stopping by all the time, which was amazing. And I think in the back of my mind, I knew it didn't matter because I knew that they were taken care of. Very similar to your, your cousin's wife.
yeah. It's definitely awesome.
It is. You need
And
that in situations like this.
absolutely, it's not something that's easy to deal with and having to live through. Being a
Yeah,
spouse and losing your spouse in the manner that you did. Um,
it's awful.
and not only that, you were there. You basically witnessed what happened. I mean, you didn't physically see it, but you were standing right outside the window.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the hardest things to know that I heard that happen.
Yeah. And I can't imagine how hard that was on you, just dealing with shock.
I never thought it would really happen, right? There was a lot of threats and a lot of stuff like that, but it just felt like what he said, right? It's just what he said.
Right.
Never thought it would. And like I said, I didn't even know he had a gun. So it's just not something I really ever thought would happen.
Man. Sad.
And I hate that so many people have to go through it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have. Um, I know we just recently looked on one of our social media sites where another officer took her life.
It's happening all the time.
For one reason or another. We don't know.
Yeah.
I know we interviewed a guy. He was a youngster. He was 20 years old. He works he works in the county jail in Harris County in Texas, and they had 4 of their officers commit suicide
It's
within a
awful.
week. Within a week. Yeah.
It's like, it's horrific. It is horrific.
So,
And there's
I
got
don't.
to be a better answer.
There has to be. Um, I know we're trying to do our best to get people the help they need. Because we are connected with some other organizations that are willing to help, and
And I
you
love
know,
that.
we're trying to get that word out and get people connected with that, whether it's a therapist or the organizations. These are free organizations, so they don't charge for getting involved.
Yeah.
Whether you're a veteran or first responder, anything like that. So
Yeah, it's great. And every little bit helps.
absolutely, and we're trying to do our part too. We're leaving ourselves open to talk to people or to just be a listening ear.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a full-time job, but uh, being a truck driver, I can talk on the phone. So,
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
so I'll be there for people as much as I can.
I think that's great. We need more people like that.
Yeah, between certain hours, obviously, because
Yeah.
I don't want to fall asleep behind the wheel. So,
Very true. Very true.
so, um, so as far as advocacy and healing, what inspired you to start speaking out and using your voice on social media?
Well, I started like way back when I can't even remember the year, but I thought we had gotten over the worst. I was like, oh, okay, this is great. We got this. I'll help others.
Hmm.
I was wrong. And then it was like, as soon as this happened, I I know I can't fix anything myself. I can't even do a ton by myself. But I can't sit back and not do something. It is such a tragedy. And if I can help even one person stay one more day, then I got to keep doing this because, like I said, I don't even want my worst enemy to feel this way. It's the worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And so painful. And it's not a temporary pain, it's something that the kids and I will hold forever. And we'll learn to process it and carry it differently, but it will always be there. So if I just sit back and not do anything, I just don't, doesn't make me feel good, I guess.
Yeah,
It gives me somewhat of I feel like I have a bigger purpose too if I'm trying to help others.
right.
So I don't know really where I'm going with it or what comes of it, but I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, just keep doing it. I can totally relate to that aspect of it. Because after we lost Billy, um, I wanted to shed light on the subject and share with people that our first responders and our veterans and stuff are people, and they have
Yeah.
family that love and care about them. And for the longest time, Brianne had the idea that I start a podcast, and I was not the social person, and I generally kept to myself, and I didn't like to talk, and because I just didn't feel like I was the right person for that kind of stuff. And she talked me into doing a podcast, and when she came up with the idea, uh, I thought she was crazy.
I think you're doing great.
And thank you. And so for the longest time, and driving trucks, I have a lot of time to think,
Yeah.
a lot of time to think. And for several weeks, months, it just totally ate away at me. And it was like this really like burning desire that overcome. And I finally agreed to do this. And I told her I'm going to do it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but we're just going to do it. And I think before this is how I basically convinced myself is before I even decided I was going to do it, I went out and bought the podcast equipment anyway.
So now you had to do it, right? You've spent all this money on it.
Right. So I did. And
That's the way to do it.
right. And I never imagined it would come to dealing with this, because we didn't have any idea that our first responders and military veterans were struggling. I mean, we've heard of it, but we just didn't know it was on such a broad spectrum that it was on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was heartbreaking. And knowing my cousin, he wouldn't want all the attention on himself because he's
Yeah.
not. He's a very humble guy,
That was
and
Corey. Yeah.
so we figured that this is what he would want us to do, was to focus on his brothers and sisters within the military and also with his first responders. So
Yeah.
in helping them.
Well, I'm sure you're making him proud.
Yep. In honor of him, we're
Yep.
doing this to help.
Yeah.
So that's how we're doing it,
It's great.
amongst other things. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like a little backstory for me. Not.
Yeah. We'll keep
But
pushing because all the help is needed.
yeah, we're definitely trying to get more help and get things put out there. So,
Yeah.
so what do you wish people understood better about PTS and veteran suicide or being a military spouse?
What do I think would know?
Uh, that they would understand better.
Oh, understand that it's real.
Right.
I think it's easy to get caught up in thinking it's an excuse to not be able to do things or to behave certain ways, which it can't be used as but it's real, and that people suffering really need help. And that it's important to educate yourself on it. There are ways to get help. There are people out there that want to help. It's not always easy to find it, I guess, but it's worth it.
Right.
And it's so important. I feel that we're all working on this together because it takes us all to make a change in the right direction.
Exactly.
For these people that are keeping us safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think the general public really understand or grasp fully the sacrifices that our brave men and women are giving to serve their country and their communities.
Yeah, I don't think they do. Yeah.
So what message do you want to give to other spouses and families walking a similar path?
You don't have to do it alone either. Just like the veteran or the first responder doesn't have to do it alone, they don't have to do it alone either. It's hard. Find help, reach out for help. There is help for everyone, not just the individual that served or, in the community.
Mm-hmm.
There are resources for all of us, and none of us should have to do it alone.
Right. That's for sure. So now, with that being said, with growth and our next steps here, you're pursuing a degree in communications. What do you hope to do with that in your future?
That's a great question. Originally, I just got the benefits to go to school because of Corey's rating. And I was like, maybe I'll eventually work. Now I have to work at some point. Eventually I will. So I would love to work for a nonprofit advocating for this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just continuing to help veterans, first responders, their families, people suffering the same way that Corey did, people suffering the same way I am.
Okay.
I definitely have a passion for it, more so than I ever have. And it gives me purpose. So hopefully somewhere along the way, I will find myself into some position like that to help.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about doing any public speaking or maybe starting up your own organization? or anything like that?
I have never thought of starting up an organization. That sounds daunting. Um, Public speaking, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just talking about your experiences and
Yeah.
the things that you went through, and it's kind of like, explaining to people about PTS and how it's real and how
Yeah.
you've lived through it and how your husband had gone through it, how it's affected you and your family and that kind of stuff.
I would love to do stuff like that. I never really thought of myself as a public speaker, but
Same here.
right. But I think I could do it. When you feel this like drive behind you and for the purpose and the cause, like I could do it.
Yeah, exactly. I know I was invited to do some public speaking in California in the prisons. That was something that I never thought I'd be able to do, but obviously I have this drive to do it because I have a story to tell, and I think it's meaningful for people
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah. Good for you. I think you should.
And maybe that's something you can also look into, and maybe that'll help people.
Yeah. I'm open to anything.
Yeah. Uh, so how do you take care of your own mental health while doing your advocacy work?
I feel like some of the advocacy work is helping with my mental health, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
But I'm also in therapy. Something that I always used to do to help with my mental health, because let's be real, like when you're living with someone like that, it's not easy. But I've always been physically active, running, weights, whatever. And so I've slowly gotten back in that. And that is huge for me mentally. It just helps clear my mind. And so that therapy, friends, realizing I don't have to do it alone. And when I'm really having a hard time, reaching out for help.
Yeah.
So.
And generally, when you reach out for help, there's always somebody there on your behalf.
Always. I have my handful that are my go-to.
Yeah.
And someone is always there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to have a tight circle.
It really is amazing. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So what gives you hope today?
I know, right? That's hard. Like, I'm not even 9 months out. And let's see, today's the 12th. In 2 days, when it gets around this day, anytime the 14th is coming up, I'm like, it's another month down, another month. It's been that long since we've seen him, heard him, touched him. Like,
so this was 9 months ago. So this is fairly recent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know if I found where to find hope yet.
Yeah.
I see it in my kids. Like I said, that's where I find true joy now.
Mm-hmm.
Is in them, seeing them succeed and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing else matters, right? The house, the car, the money, it doesn't matter. But I have hope that there are brighter days ahead, and that there can still be something for me out there.
Yeah.
And maybe advocacy is it. I feel like I try to be patient with myself and realize that nothing happens overnight.
Right.
So.
That's for sure. Nothing does ever happen overnight, and it takes time, and it might be hard. It might be daunting, but there is another side of that. There is a silver lining that once you get past that point, then when things start coming together, and then you start to see the joy and
Yeah.
the peace in knowing that, hey, this is actually working out really well. And like for my situation, I didn't think this would go anywhere, and it blew up so fast that
Yeah. Which is great.
I was just astonished. And I've gotten better at interviewing people too. So
I'm sure, because I've gotten better at being the interviewee, like doing, you know what I mean? Like I remember the first one I did and I watched it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awful. So yeah, I get it. You get better at it. It gets easier.
right, it does. It totally gets easier, and I think you'd probably be really good at being public speaking and stuff. And
Well,
hopefully,
thanks.
you can get involved with an organization to advocate for first responders and veterans or whatever your passion is,
Yeah.
and whatever you want to do. You have the experience. You don't need a certificate. You don't need
Right.
to go to the Ivy League school to get all this experience. This is a
Yeah.
life experience that most college kids will not
Don't.
see.
Yeah.
And a lot of my experiences had come from life experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And it's
having those
unfortunate,
knowledge,
but I guess we just use it to help others.
yep, and that's it. We're here to help other people kind of go through their grief and deal with their issues, or help them just kind of get by day by day.
Yeah.
So in closing, what's one of the things that Corey would want the world to remember about him?
Oh,
Well, I know you'd mentioned he was pretty humble.
he would not want all this attention on him. I know that.
Right.
He had the biggest heart, though. I think, what would he want people to remember about him? Probably that he had such a huge heart.
Mhm.
He was so loving. He wanted the best for everyone. And I think that was part of the problem, is that he couldn't handle the hurt and the ugliness of the world that he saw. It didn't sit well with him. And so he was always trying to fix everything, which created its own problems. But I think he would want people to realize how loving he was and how big his heart really was. And that life doesn't have to turn out the way it did for him for others.
Right.
Because I think he knows now.
Right. Somehow I kind of get the feeling, and I just wanted to ask you, do you feel like after his service, um, and going to job that maybe he had lost his purpose somewhere along the way?
100%. I know he did. He talked about it. He was very open about all this with me.
Yeah.
His purpose and just why it would be easier if he left. And all the things that I would have if he left, which we're working with the government. Why did he think that,
Right.
So he didn't have a grip on reality there, but he definitely lost his purpose. He was a really good soldier.
Yeah.
And so that was hard for him to come back and have these struggles and feel constantly beaten down.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's a hard reality.
definitely to lose purpose and not find it, you just give up
Yeah.
I can imagine. So, if someone listening today is struggling with what you've had gone through, uh, what would you want them to hear from you right now?
Like if they've gone through the same thing as me,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to feel the emotions. There's so many: guilt, pain, sadness, regret, relief. And I think it's all normal. Don't beat yourself up for the emotions that you're feeling. It's part of grief.
Yeah.
And it does get, I don't think better or easy is the right word. And I don't think time heals it. But I think you learn to carry it differently.
Right.
And you can, with that, you can learn to enjoy happy moments that do come, because they will come,
Yeah.
and that it's not going to feel that heavy forever.
Right.
So keep going and pushing.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't get any easier, but you find a way to kind of cope with it
Mm-hmm.
and rechannel that energy.
Yeah.
So um, I really hope the best for you. And I hope that someday you can get involved with an organization
Thank you.
and you can become an advocate for somebody, some organization.
Yeah.
You definitely have a very powerful story. You definitely have the experiences, and it needs to be heard. Your story needs to be heard, and people need to listen.
If it changes lives and helps others, I'm here.
Exactly, and that's what we're here for: is helping change lives and
Yeah.
helping to listen.
Yeah.
There's multiple avenues.
I know. I need to
Many,
access more of them.
yes, absolutely, and hopefully, with what we're doing and other podcasts and other organizations are doing, we're trying to break that stigma, because that's what we
Yeah.
want. We want to break that stigma, and we want to normalize it so that people aren't so afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. And I do think it's inching its way
Yeah,
in the right direction.
yeah. And the more we talk about it, the more we're open about it, the more we get it out there.
Yep.
Yeah,
The better. I agree. Yeah.
exactly. Um, so that is all I have for you today. Um, Hopefully, in the near future, we can have you back on here and we could talk about what you've been doing, what you've been up
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. I'd
and
love it.
to see how far you've progressed.
Yeah.
You know,
I would love it. I would do it. Yeah.
absolutely. And we'd definitely be honored and love to have you back on here again.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me today.
You're very welcome. And we definitely appreciate it. And our hearts go out to you for your loss. And we definitely thank you and your husband for his service.
Well, thank you. Thanks for what you guys are doing and helping get the word out.
You're very welcome. Um, so with that, everybody, this is 8158, Libby, wonderful guest. Hopefully you guys got something out of her story, which I'm sure you have. Um, Thank you, Libby, so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bless you for being on. So have a
Thanks.
good night.
You too.
All righty.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on 8158 Stories of Sacrifice. Every story we share is a tribute to the courage and resilience of first responders and their families. If this episode impacted, encouraged, or inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who supports first responders. Follow us on all social media platforms at 8158 Podcast for updates. 8158 Stories of Sacrifice is a team effort. Rico brings the stories to life through casting, writing, original music, and editing. Brianne Shipley as production manager, handling booking, social media, graphics, promotion, marketing, website management, and logo design. Please visit our website at 8158podcast.com. For questions, collaborations, or to share your story, our email address is contactus@8158podcast.com. Until next time, let's continue to honor the legacies and remember the sacrifices of those who serve, every brave man and woman on the front lines, protecting and defending us all. This is Rico signing off and honoring 8158.